Hi folks, just thought I'd come back on something actually from the previous video. Don't know if you guys remember, but I showed you this. This was the gauze out the pump. But didn't know this actually, but there are two types. There is the new pump where it doesn't have the three holes, and there is the old pump which does have the three holes, and this is it. And this has a gasket. I think I went over this. This one's broke, so it's no good. So I contacted the boys at Z1A, and I spoke to Dave about this, and he sent through a gauze, but apparently there was a bit of a cock up with understanding, and I got the wrong one. And this one is what I really needed, but apparently they don't make it anymore. So what do? Well, I looked into it, and there's a couple of outlets in the United States that will sell one of these new with the three holes, important for the three holes. But I didn't really want to spend all that money. I think it was about 20 quid plus 15, 20 quid to get it over. I thought, nah, pointless. So what I decided to do was see if I could make the gasket that sits in between the gauze and the pump. Just there, resides on that face. Bit tricky because it's very thin, or I should say very, very narrow. So what I decided to do was get some neoprene, which is this stuff. We got that from a big online store, begin with A. I won't advertise them, although you probably guessed who it is. And I decided to cut it out. And I'm going to switch cameras now and just show you what I've been up to. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I hope my light's not too good on the bench. But there's the gauze, or the strainer, and that goes on there like that, as we went through in the last video. But what I've done is I've drawn around this, and I made up some punches a long time ago, which will cut through gasket material, rubber, that sort of thing, for any seals that I might need to make. Flat seals, not to get mixed up with crankshaft seals and that sort of thing. So what I did, I cut around this there, and then that's the original there, and that's the one we've made. Took a bit of time, and it takes a little bit of patience to get it the right thickness, or should I say gauge, narrowness, for want of a better word, width, that's the word, width, on that, so it mates with the inside of that. And obviously you want to try and get those holes spot on, and that seems to have worked. So what I'm going to do now is just shape it up a little bit. I'm going to tap round that with the hammer just to make sure, carefully not damaging the outer lip. This is so hopefully it will give me a pretty good seal. And then we'll see if we can put it together. There's a few, I don't know what it is on this gauze, but it looks like it's bits of joining compound from when the engine was first put together at Kawasaki. So I'll try and scrape all them off. Some of them will come off, but some will not. But I don't think. I think they're on the outside, which is really where you want them if they're going to be anywhere. So let's see if we can put it all together. So that one there is going to go in here. And then we're going to line all that up with this one, and then we'll see if we can put a couple of screws in to pin it down. That's just not tight, just gently squeezed up. Don't want that over the edge. Now I haven't noticed anything in the manual, but I might use some semi-permanent thread lock on these 3 screws when we put it together for good. I'm not going to tighten it down because it might have a habit of, let's just tap that, of splaying. It would be ideal if I could create a bent lip around that edge to make it a little bit more level as you tighten it. And I think that's probably it. Obviously I'm not going to leave it like this. I'm going to take it apart. We'll put some thread lock in these, but that seems to be okay. So what I'm going to do now is mark it so I know where the parts are. We'll go by this boss. So it goes back the same when we get the thread lock. I'm just going to go and get the thread lock. I'm not going to take them all out, so I don't really need to mark it. So probably doesn't need a lot. Well, there's quite a lot of spring in that one. It's all about patience, isn't it? Taking your time. Last thing you want is these screws coming undone inside the engine. That's not super tight, but probably tight enough. I'm just going to go around the edge and see if I can peen that over a little bit. This might be a little bit overkill. I don't know whether it's made any difference. It probably hasn't, but it's on there anyway, and that's really what I wanted to achieve today. So yeah, so this stuff was about £3, if that, 280 odd, something like that, and it'll come in handy for other seals as well. It's oil resistant, which I had to make sure that it's going to be okay to do the job with. Those are my little punches. As I said earlier, I made these a long time ago. They do the job quite well. And there's the little blanks that came out. So there we have the oil pump. Yeah. Right, let's go over to the engine. Alright guys, we're back at the engine. A couple of things I've done before we go ahead and mount the pump. I'm not going to put the O-ring in there at the moment, but just to give you an idea where it mounts, I've put these 2 dowels on where they're major important. In fact, If you look at this one here, go back some time ago when I did the 1100, we had a problem with that one. The bolt that holds the pump on, there's 3 bolts that go in, 1, 2 and 3, but on the 1100 engine the bolt snapped off in there and it was a bit of a pig. I ended up drilling it out and helicoiling it, and it turned out okay, but it was something I really didn't need. To get the drill smack bang in the middle of that bolt that had snapped off, I made a little insert, much the same as the dowel, with a 2mm hole in the middle, which I made on the lathe. Now I know a lot of people can't do that because they haven't got a lathe, but if you know someone and you need to get that hole smack bang in the middle so that when you put the stud extractor in, you get the stud in the middle of the actual sheared off bolt. It worked. We got it out, we cleaned it all up, and I think I don't know whether we did get all of it out. I think it damaged the threads a little bit. I can't remember. Do go back and have a look anyway. It's on the 1100, but we got it all sorted. These holes are much the same, 3 holes to hold the pump, and I'll go and get the pump. The pump is not quite ready yet. I've got to get a gasket, and in fact I'm going to ring Dave at Z1A in a minute to see what we can get excuse me, see what we can get hold of, because this gasket doesn't come in the actual kit, the gasket kit, because it's not really a kit for the engine, it's solely for the oil pump. So let's just put that back on like that. That'll just push down temporarily, and the pump goes in that way round, and it resides on the dowels. Now I haven't put the gear on the pump as yet, but that's basically where it sits, and it bolts here, here and here. And if I can get it back off he says, let's get a little tapper. Oh, there he goes. Dowels come out with the pump. We'll pop it back. The gear goes on there, which is this gear. And there's a spacer, a small washer that goes on there. That one fits on like that, and there's a pin that goes through it. So you put the pin in first, then that, and then you put your E-clip there. Obviously make sure that E-clip's in the groove, because the last thing you want is for this to come off. And it all fits in like so. And that gear is driven directly off the crank. And that's it. So it's still a bit of work to do, but that's where we are at the moment. So I'm going to make a couple of calls in a minute, see what I can come up with a gasket to go on the side of that pump. I wish I hadn't put that back on now, because it can be a bit of a pig to get off. Oh, he's come off easy this time. Again, the dowels come out. Let's pop it back. Yeah, see if I can get the gasket that goes on there. Let me see if I can open that up a sec. Now last time it wouldn't come undone. There he goes. Just quite to get it out level. So there's your gears that are driven off the crank through the gear, which we just went through. Pulls the oil up through there, sends it round, out through that hole, up there into the oil way. So that's the gasket I need to get for this face here. Just close that gently. Let's put it back on the bench. Right guys, this is the oil pump. We played around with this the other day with making the gasket on here out of the neoprene which I bought. It seems to be okay. It went well. I'm quite pleased with that, but time will tell. We will test the oil pump in a bucket of oil with a drill on here, but that's for another day. I just want to talk about what I've done here. The face, which wouldn't come off the other day, we got it off, and I've made a gasket in much the same way as I made the gasket here. Draw around it. I basically put 2 holes in the casing, locate it with 2 screws, and then tapped around it with a small hammer to give me outline, and then I've cut it out. A little bit fiddly on this one because we've got the oil pump gears here, and you don't want to get paper and sealer or whatever you in the pump or in the gears. So it was done very carefully, but I have used a bit of sealer on the edge of that. You might be able to see the orange, and that in itself hopefully will give us a good seal. The only thing I need to do now, these have all been tightened down, and I've really tightened them down, and all I need to do is to put the gear back on. So to do that, the first thing we do is put the washer on, and then we put the pin in, and then the gear. And if we look carefully at the gear, one side of it's got wear marks, so it's going to go on facing the pump. You just move that little pin so it drops down. There it goes. And finally, not forgetting the E-clip. Which goes in there. And once that's on, it locks the whole lot together. And that's it. The oil pump is now ready for mounting into the engine. We will test it. I may video that actually. We'll see if we can put this in a bucket of oil or a bowl of oil and spin this with a drill of some kind. Maybe even be able to do it by hand and see if it pumps up through here. In fact, we'll do that at a later date before we put it back into the engine. Right guys, slight change in operations. What I've decided to do today was get all these bolts. I don't know if you can see them. Move that out of the way. Get all the bolts there. These are the crank bolts. Mr. Marston at Z1 has supplied me with one, which was one which broke off in the crankcase, which we took apart. Well, don't know when it was, don't know how long ago it was quite some time ago now, but we took it apart. If you remember rightly, do look back on the old videos. We had one snap and I had to helicoil it. So that's helicoil, and this was basically the bolt here. I don't know if you can see that. That was the bolt that came out. Got most of it out, but there was quite a lot of drilling involved and messing about. Anyway, it was tapped with a helicord tap, and it was helicord, and that seems to be okay. I'm going to torque it down. We should be all right, but I don't want to do a test run with that for obvious reasons. Today, what I've done is run all these bolts through a tap. I should say a die. This one is the 6mm die for all these, and these are the sump bolts. These are the crankcase bolts. These are the crank bolts which hold the crank in place, as well as being part of the holding the sump on as well. So all these have been run through the die. They're looking pretty good. I've also put them in the lathe and buffed them up, so they're nice and clean and shiny. To be honest with you though, some of them are quite badly pitted, so I may renew them. It's yet to be seen what we're going to do about that one. We'll see how we go. So that's that bit done. The next stage, as I said the other day, I'm going to test the oil pump. What I need to do is clear the decks, and I'll be back when I've done that. Don't know if you can see this, guys. I'll try and get it into the picture best I can. This is the pump which we're going to test. I put some oil in here. It's clean oil. I didn't want to use obviously old oil because that would just be crazy. So there's clean oil in there. We will reuse it. It's not going to cause any problems. We can put that into the bike or use it in an oil can or whatever. What I've done, I've taken the pump and I've put the drill onto the shaft, and I'm going to see if we can pump the oil to make sure the pump is doing what it's supposed to do before we put it into the bike. Now, we spilled a little bit earlier. I don't know if you can see it on there, but here we go. I think you'd agree that that is working quite well. And that's not flat out on the drill. Let's try and go a bit faster. I think we can see that pump's working very well. Better not overdo it. Now I've taken it out, so we need to let it drain. I'm going to see if I can undo that chuck. And pull it off the shaft. Yeah, there we go. Now I'm glad I did it because a fly has come out and a little bit of the sealant's come out as well. So I might do that again actually, just to clear it all out. That is a fly, isn't it? Yeah, great big fly. I must have got into the pump. Or it flew into the oil bath. Let's lock it up again. So that's looking quite good. We can't measure the pressure because it's not on the engine, which is pretty obvious really, but there we are. Take it off there, let that drain and clear up the mess. But yeah, it goes to prove the pump is working, so that's quite pleasing. It would be really bad if we put that into the engine, start it up, had no oil pressure. What I tend to do, if you look back in the old videos of when I did the engine that's in the Z1 now, I didn't put any plugs in. In fact, I even left the camshaft cover off, the cam cap, no, not cam caps, camshaft cover that goes on the very top of the head. I left that off so I could see the oil coming up the oil ways and into the cam caps and the bearings. And it's not long before this starts to pick it up when you give it a bit of a spin. And I always tend to rev the engine a little bit so it's giving it maximum pull, as it were. So there you go, that's the oil pump. It's proven it pumps. Considering I was cleaning all those bolts off and I had a lot of the stuff for the head on the desk, on the bench, I thought I'd just go through this. Now I don't want to teach anybody to suck eggs here, but I just thought I'd go through this so that anybody that doesn't understand, this normally applies to most Jap multis of the 70s, 80s. If we look at here, we've got the cam chain, and we've got some things that resemble, I know it's a bit crude, but bear with me guys. We've got the cam chain tensioner. This is looking on the right hand side of the engine in towards the block. Crank turns the whole cam chain and it pulls that way round, so all the slack is going to be here. So this is the bit which is under tension. This is the outlet cam, symbolizing it. Obviously there's a sprocket on it. This one is the inlet cam. This one is your cam chain tensioner, and these two are just guide sprockets, and they are quite important in the whole setup. This one here is a guide sprocket. This one is just a roller, and it's got a tongue on it which sits between the links in the chain just to help guide it. This one, as it happens, is worn, so I think this one might need to be replaced, but put that to one side. You have a tensioner on this side behind the block, and you'd put this one on T14 and turn it slowly so that it pulls taut this side and all the slack is on this side, and that's when you'd let the tensioner off. The spring pushes that plunger into that, which then takes up the tension by moving in. It's quite a simple idea, but it's quite effective, and I think from my experience it's pretty reliable as well. So that's just really an idea. As I said, I don't want to teach anybody to suck eggs, but anybody that doesn't know how that works, it gives you an idea of the way the cams are driven. And I believe for every one revolution of the crank, each cam does half a revolution, or is it the other way around? I can't remember, but there is a different ratio between the crank and the cams, but just to give you an idea, this one in the middle keeps the cam chain pulled down as much as it can, so that it wraps as much of the cam chain around the cam sprockets as possible. That's a clever move. This is the one which we put on after you've done the timing, and it's held down onto the top of the cylinder head by these 4 bolts. Well, they're in there, they're not in there at the moment, but that's the way it works. So this one is quite important, and when this one goes on, the whole thing comes together with the count of pins from when it's on T14 round to a marker on the cam chains, sorry, on the cam sprockets, and I think it's 28 teeth for the timing. Anyway, there you go. Yeah. Another thing I need to do before I put the crank case on top of this one is to put the crankshaft central locking journal in. Now, I cleaned that yesterday and I can't remember where I put it. There it is. And if you look carefully in there, you see there's an arrow. The arrow always points forward. I cleaned this so it's okay to go straight on. And what I tend to do is tighten 2 bolts down by hand, and there's a reason for doing that. It reminds me that it needs to be torqued, and I leave these 2 up so I can't miss it. So let's just get those 2 down. They're only finger tight, but I leave these 2 up purposely to remind me to torque this bearing cap. So that's it. We're really ready to close up. I need to obviously get myself prepared with all my goo and stick it down there, and I've been using, I'm not too sure I'll be using this again, so we might have to stop at this point. I've been using Permatech Aviation forms a gasket sealant liquid. This is quite old, so it might not be usable, but let's have a look. If I've got any doubts, we won't be using it, because you don't want to be going through something like this and then find out that you get an oil leak. I think it might be alright, actually. Yeah, it might be alright. But the wind's blowing a hoolie. I'm getting a lot of noise. So what I'm going to do is leave that there. In fact, we'll put it down there out of the way. Goodies. Courtesy of David, Mr. Z1. We've got a cam chain tensioner jockey, which is going to go on the, I think that fits in the barrels. I'll have to check. We've got 4 half moons for the end of the cams, oil seals. What else have we got in here? Oh yeah, we've got some crank seals. So when we put the crank in, we put new seals on the end of the crank, and there's some other seals as well, like the gear shift. I think there's a seal behind the rotor stator, might be that one actually, I'll have to check that one out. All those go in there, and in here we've got in here we've got cam chain tensioner, or guide. It's a guide really, and these are the little rubber mounts which go on the shafts that hold the wheels in place. There's a wheel over there, I'll show you what I mean. I think I might have showed you that earlier. So that goes in there, that goes in there. Keep all those safe. Put that back in the box. Put that back in the box. And put that to one side. Now, something I was going to go through. The bolts. These bolts. This is the new... No, where's the new one? David sent me a new one. There's the new one, because if you remember rightly, and I'm going to take you off the pole a minute. If you remember rightly, we had that one. It broke. So now I've got the new bolt for that. It's been helicored. Gone through all that in the other video. Do go back and watch, guys. If I'm repeating myself, apologies, but sometimes you do get a bit lost as to where you are and where you're going and what you've done. Don't know what that's for. Right, camera stuff. I can put that over there. Now, today I'm cleaning up all the surfaces. Now I've done a little bit of that earlier today, so these are pretty clean. I put this back on because I had no space. Let's go over here. This is what I wanted to show you. This is my crude, very crude diagram of the bolts, because as you'll see there's few that are different lengths. These are all at the front. That one is longer at the front. These two obviously go up from underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These 4 at the back, which are here. Sorry, these here are the ones on the side, on the far side, and these are the ones that go up and underneath. But as I said, we'll do them when we get everything closed up from this side, and then we turn it up the right way, and then we'll put those in, if I got it right. Okay, I've poured some of this into this. Tricky job, fiddly job. Oh, you bastard. Right. All done there. Let's put that over there. Don't think I've missed any. I've got more of my t-shirt than I have on the engine. Just close up. It's not a good time to find something on there, is it? Let's see how we go. There you go, just to give you an idea. All the brown bits. This part's important because it's oil ways. And we need to make sure they're in good order. Closing up. These down. going to tighten them down now with a torque wrench. $12. I'm going to leave the torque wrench on these because these two need to have a bit of sealant put on them and thread lock. So let's just put a bit of sealer on them. I don't think I'm going to use any thread lock on that one. These are the ones I talked about yesterday. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one, number 5, the longest bolt. And we're going to tighten them up now. Need a shorter extension. And finally the back ones. Yeah. Now I need to tighten these up in a certain sequence. Right guys, all the bolts have been put in from the cardboard, the actual template I used, and I've tightened some of them down gently, but now I'm going to torque them. I'm going to torque, and then I'm going to go in, that's in a pattern, and then I'm going to go around and tighten these ones. Now these are very, very shallow. It's a very shallow torque setting. I was going to use this one, but this is just no good. So we're using this one. This is a very fine, delicate torque wrench, Work Pro, and this is set to Kawasaki, and they recommend 69 inches per pound. So it's set at that, slightly lower than that, but this I think would be okay. So let's check that one. Let's start here. Yep. don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it does click. And that is the motor closed. Let's get it round a bit. Oh, just dropped a bit of wood, never mind. We'll get that later on. So now I'm going to take these two blocks out. So I can see it a bit better. Right, the idea now is to let this sealant dry a little bit, and all the excess that you see oozing out, we'll clean it all off. It's all round on the joint line, you can see it, and I've got it on my shirt as well. Anyway, there we go. The crank still turns alright. Gearbox, yep, that selector's in there. You just see that selector down there. I'm going to put the selector in. I took the selectors, the two selectors that sit here, I took them out because it's just easier to concentrate on one to get it into the position it needs to be in. So we'll put those selectors back now. Yeah, that would be a laugh. Forget to put them back and then put the motor, close the motor up completely. Here we go. Two selectors. And they need to be on their rails, and then the rod goes in from this side. I'll show you in a minute. So that's all selectors secured in the proper places, so you can see them all. I'll take my hand out of the way, you can see it better. There you go, look. And there's a little circlip on the shaft. Where is it? Here. That stops it from coming out, going too far into the clutch, obviously, but also when the cover's on, it stops that from coming out this way, which is obviously what we need. Right, we just need to let that cure now. There's a big blob there. I don't know if you can see that big blob, huge blob just there, but we'll clean all that up. Hi chaps, the camera locked up there for some reason. I was running down the GoPro and now the camera on the phone is giving me grief. Ugh. If anybody knows of a easy, simple system camera to use on these videos, do let me know in the comments, because you do really get frustrated sometimes when that happens and you lose footage. Anyway, I'm going to come back to the engine because there's something I didn't mention I should have done. It's very, very important. When you close the engine, don't know if you can see it down there, but down here, just there, let me get a pointing stick a minute. Where that boss is, there's an O-ring, and that O-ring is very important. You mustn't forget the O-ring, because on the other side of those two small bosses is the oil pressure switch, and the pump. Let me zoom out. The pump, which is mounted here, it's not actually on the bike yet, or sorry, on the engine yet, but that pumps oil, and if that O-ring is not in there, it will leak and your oil pressure will be basically really bad. So it's really good to make sure you put the O-ring. And the other thing, whilst we're on the subject of O-rings, I mentioned this the other week when we were going through the oil pump, there's an O-ring that goes here as well, and I'll go through that when I put the oil pump on. Right, the oil pump. Earlier in the video we went through this little chap, completely serviced it, we tested it, we put a new rubber seal in there which I made out of the neoprene. If you missed that, do go back and have a look. I also made a gasket for this plate here, and it's got some sealant on it. There's probably a little bit too much sealant on it, but I think we'll get away with it. I've run it, tested it, as you see in the video, previous part of the video, and it's pretty good. So now we're going to mount it, and as I said earlier, I won't forget the O-ring that goes in there. So let's go and find that. Just put the oil pump there for a sec. Just for information, guys, for a lot of the 70s 80s bikes, a friend of mine who's got a shop in Bristol supplied this gasket. It's a complete gasket set, MR Motorcycles, Martin, and in there we got all the seals for just about everything there is, O-rings, etc, etc. Sorry, not seals as in crankshaft seals. Mr. Z1 supplied those, Dave Marston. Big shout out to Martin at MR Motorcycles, and also, well, everybody knows in that's doing these sort of bikes of this era, Z1 Power is the place to go. I was in Bristol. Martin, I asked him to order that because it just made sense. I was down there working. So just to give you a heads up on what we got here, so now I need to find out where that little O-ring is. In actual fact, it's not an O-ring. It is, it's like an O-ring, but it's elliptical. If you cut it in cross section, you'd find it was elliptical. So I think that one's probably it. If you look at that, you see what I mean? Don't know if you can see that. It's taller than it is wide, which is really good. Gives a good seal. Let's put you back in the pod. So this one fits there. Good snug fit. We put the dowels in. So all I need to do now is to mount oil pump. Now it's going to protrude a little bit because the O-ring's a bit high, and we want that because we want it to be a good fit. We want it to seal. That's okay. So this one, I'll screw this one down before I screw this one down. I'll tighten them all equally, but this one will probably take most of the pressure to squash that O-ring and get that seal. Right, I went to mount the seal, went to mount the pump, and just to test it before we videoed it, and I found out that this thread, when the screw went in, or the bolt went in, was pretty bad. So I've just run a tap down there just to clean it and make sure it's okay. We've not got hardly any debris on the tap, so I don't think it's too bad. It might be the bolt, so we'll put the bolt through a die. That looks a bit cleaner. We'll try it now. Dowels are in, O-rings there. So we just tap that on. That's better. Make sure it meshes with the crank. You can't really not mesh it with a crank. And then we'll tighten it down. That was clumsy. Now I know that one's okay, I'm going to take them all out. And I'm going to put a little bit, just a little bit of thread lock on those bolts. Only semi-permanent. I only use semi-permanent. Never use the red stuff, because I think you'll find the red stuff is permanent. That's more than enough. Getting a bit low on this. I think I'm missing a tube of that. Right, I'm just going to tighten the oil pump bolts down and I'll be back later. Just gently first of all, and then we'll torque them. I have to say that bolt's going in a lot better now. Right, I'll be back in a sec with a torque wrench. Right folks, we're going to torque them down. Those 3 bolts that we were holding the pump on, I've set the torque wrench to, it's much the same as the casings actually. It is 0.8 of a kilogram per meter, which is, yeah, the same as the casing 6mm bolts, not to be get mixed up with the main 8mm bolts. They were a lot higher, they're about 2.5 I think, yeah, I think I mentioned it. I'll just check just so that anybody wants to know. Yeah, they're 2.5 kilograms per meter. Anyway, let's get on with these. So let's see if we can just gently first of all. That's 1, 2, 3, and that's it. There's very little backlash on the gear, which is good, and as you can see, we turn the crank, we move that gear, and it doesn't take a lot. Yeah, it's a little bit, but not a lot. The click always sounds worse than what it is. So that's it. So the next bit is going to be closing the sump. We've got the gasket. There's some dowels, I believe, to go on here. They may already be in the sump. I will check that. If not, we'll get them from Mr. Marsden, Mr. Z1. But at the moment, I think that's probably it. Let me switch cameras a sec. Yeah, at the moment, chaps, that's where we are. It's ready really now to just close up the sump. But I'm going to clean the sump off. That was another component that was vapor blasted. It's looking pretty good. If there's any questions, stick the questions down below. Really appreciate. Somebody said to me you should mention it more often. Please do subscribe. Yeah, please do subscribe. Click a like button, the little thumb at the bottom if you like what you see, and I'll be back with some more. But at the moment, I'm going to say that's it now. I'll be back probably in the next week or so. The weather's going to turn, so I'll probably be spending more time in here. So if you ride a bike, ride safe. If you drive a car, drive safe. And I'll see you when I do. Cheerio for now, folks.